Welcome to Planet Nine Crunch. I'm Doug Gibson, and we're here with Paul Apel, or W Paul Apel, as a novelist. And he has a great novel out, which I've had the opportunity to read twice now on Ed Wood. It's called The Valley Obscured by Smog. And I'm from Southern California, so I know what you're talking about there, okay? And tell us a little bit about the book, and then I want to talk more about it really quickly. Give us a short summary right now.
Well, the book follows a young, recent college graduate who wants to make it as a screenwriter in Hollywood. And so, out of school, he moves in with some friends in the San Fernando Valley and ends up writing for a publishing house that specializes in adult magazines and adult books. And one of his coworkers is Ed Wood, the B movie director from the 50s. Now it's the late 70s, and he's well past his prime and struggling with alcoholism and never having really made it in movies the way he wanted to. And the two of them form kind of a unlikely friendship and have a chance to make another movie together. And that's the basics.
Well, the movie, of course, is Necromania.
Yeah.
And you said it for 1977 because he wanted to catch Wood at the tail end of his career. It was made in 70 or 71. But it almost seems like you had the opportunity to almost step into a time capsule and observe the last couple of years of Ed Wood's life.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually went to Redlands and everything. And the book starts out a little bit down. His parents don't want him to do this. They have a job already lined up for him. He has a job lined up, and a guy he thought was his close friend took it from him at the last minute. And then a girl he loved in high school. You know, I'm not going to press you on this, but I wonder how much of this is autobiographical. Okay.
Well, the easy way to say it is, it's like it all is until it isn't.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like, that's the great thing about fiction is anytime I want to change something, I can just change it. But in the
go on.
Very, very broad strokes. I mean, I went to the University of Redlands in Southern California. My parents did not have a job lined up for me after I graduated. I did not move to Hollywood after I graduated. I came back to Oregon. But when I was in school, not when I graduated, but while I was in school, I had several friends from back home that were trying to make it, doing different things in Los Angeles. And there was a few of them who lived in a like apartment / condo type thing together. And I would visit them on the weekends or for long, like if I had a spring break or something, I would go sleep on their couch or in their basement or whatever. And so some of that stuff is based on that. And at one point I had a girl I dated in high school lived there. And so I'd, go there and sleep in the basement and while she's like, living her Los Angeles life and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't, I never really tried to make it as a screenwriter in Hollywood or anything like that. But
it's interesting. This girl's name is Fern. And so he's stuck in this place with a friend who's sort of stabbed him in the back, a girl he loved who's hanging around, with a boyfriend who writes a dreadful screenplay. And this is almost this is almost Woody Allen-ish, that he gets a contract with Universal. But he throws him a bone, which is to go work for this publication house. And that's how he meets Ed Wood. And we've all read the excerpts from Bride of the Monster, Scripts from the Crypt. We've read stuff from Nightmare of Ecstasy. I have the book over there, but I didn't bring it with me right now. Where we can get an idea, you go into this place that you have to go through locked doors and windowless cubicles, I guess they're rooms, and it's because they don't want to get raided, right?
Right.
And here, you can give me the book. Here it is. I mean, I think I've read this 5,000 times. I bought it 35 years ago or so. But you bet you got your copy too, right?
Yeah, it's around here somewhere. Oh, here it is.
Oh yeah. I got to tell you,
it's all beat up.
Yeah, same here. They've been telling me what I just did today? I did a video, a read of the week, where I read selections from John Andrews. but anyways, I'm trying to understand, how did you get a feel for what you think Ed Wood would be like at that time?
Well, I guess that as far as the stuff about the publishing house, I got most of those details from an essay that a
Leo
writer
Eaton,
named
right? Leo Eaton,
Yeah, Leo Eaton,
yeah.
he wrote, and I hadn't ever read that until actually like within the last 5 or 6 years or something. So I knew all about Ed Wood for a long time before I ever read that kind of perspective on him. Um, so the details about like the locked door, the intercom you have to buzz through, and all that kind of stuff, that all comes from there. But Ed Wood, the persona, I mean, it's kind of a combination of a bunch of different like pieces of guesswork. I mean, some of it is obviously informed by the portrayal by Johnny Depp in the movie Ed Wood, which, you know, some of it is accurate and some of it isn't. But as far as like kind of when he was on, and when he was ebullient and, you know, and stuff, my understanding is he was a little bit like that sometimes. But then, you know, he in the later part of his life, and younger, I guess, starred in some of his movies and some other people's movies. And so I picked up, you know, some of that, what I thought were real parts of him from those performances, and then just other interviews and things I've read. I just kind of pieced it together.
Well, there's the Joe Blevins and Jordan Torvano book or something where you get a picture of Wood in the 70s, don't you? Dad Made Dirty Movies. And then there's, of course, this book that has the chapter it's almost a glow or something about the end of his life. Now, I understand that you had originally intended to write a screenplay as sort of a sequel to Ed Wood, but it did morph into a novel, right?
Yeah, it's when I was really young, like a teenager, I wanted to write basically a screenplay that would be the sequel to Ed Wood, and I never got anywhere on it. But for a long time, I always thought the later part of his life that's not in the movie, in the 60s and 70s part of his life, would make an interesting story. And then separate from that, I was working on more, you know, closer to my experiences type of stories about young people trying to make it and all that kind of stuff. And at some point I realized that I could just combine the two things, and that would be my way into talking about the end of, or the later years of Ed Wood's life, would be to have a character, or like a fictional character, meet him and hang out with him, and kind of in some ways a wish fulfillment thing, like, oh, what would it have been like if I met Ed Wood, like when I was young and impressionable and really interested in him and all that kind of stuff. But obviously it's not total wish fulfillment because, you know, not everything, it's not like a fantasy or anything, but that's basically where it came from. And actually, then once I had the idea to combine those two things, I wrote the whole screenplay, and then had a few people read it, and I worked on it on and off, and then finally decided I'll just adapt the screenplay into a novel. And then I expanded it a little bit, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same as the screenplay.
Well, you have a degree in creative writing. You're good at doing this, right? Very well. I've always never had the guts to write a screenplay. I don't know if I could. I want to say something. When I read this book so many years ago, I thought to myself, we need a biography of Ed Wood, and we probably still do. But since then, we have Dad Made Dirty Movies. We have Angel Scott's book, which really captures how the alcohol caught him in his life in the late 50s. We have James Pontolivo's books in the 40s and things like that. We have Bob Blackbourne's memoir, or not memoir, but history of Kathy Wood. And your book now, we almost have a biography of Ed Wood if you take all of those books together now. And you're capturing a part of his life. I thought you did it very well. Before I get you talking, I'll just babble on a little bit longer. You show in your novel the brusque affection between Ed Wood and Kathy Wood. The way they're just yelling at each other, give me a cigarette, you know, and stuff like that. And your character, Alan Starkwell, at first he's at Yucca thinking, Yucca Apartments, what am I doing here, you know? and he's appalled by what he's seeing in there, and then he kind of gets interest in. Well, I want to say he finally develops kind of an affection for Ed Wood. He's striving very hard to have him keep his job, and try to get places. He's almost taking like a mother hen type approach. And by the way, I should mention that Bernie Bloom, I thought that was pretty cool. His portrayal just tells him, asked Ed Wood to make a movie, and $7,000, which is true, I believe, and he sort of latches on, and I love the idea he's just thrown in that job with no introduction of what to do. What do you think of? Tell me about how you decided to build a relationship. He's a young man where he becomes friends with Shannon Dolder, who I don't know if becomes I guess she does have a history in punk rock, doesn't she?
Yeah. She was. I wanted to have a character who was a counterpoint to, you mentioned the character Fern, his high school girlfriend.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a character who was a counterpoint to her, who was an edgier, kind of more street smart person, and who could also be kind of a contemporary with him that would give him the main character, would give the main character more of a contemporary tour through the cool parts of Los Angeles, and luckily, someone like that just happened to actually live in Ed Wood's apartment building in the 70s. And that was, you mentioned Shannon Dolder. So I thought, well, rather than just creating a character, I'll imagine what, if he's going over there anyway, maybe he'd run into her, and then maybe they would, hit it off and go hang out together and stuff like that.
It had to make sense, actually, that?
Yeah. And I might have fudged the timeline and the ages and things a little bit there as well, but and most of the characterization and everything is almost entirely fictional, but there's the grain of truth that a young woman who went on to be in a punk rock band that had some people in it that later were more influential in the punk scene than she ended up being. But the fact that she was already really in real life living there, I was like, oh, I might as well use some of that.
It's a good idea. And by the way, on the Ed Wood Jr. Facebook page, we've seen some more things about her singing career, right? Mm-hmm. Which is very interesting. What was it like to go through Los Angeles time periods? It must have been a lot of fun to have a reading by Charles Bukowski, an encounter with Keith Moon and things like that. That's just the creative writer going, right?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's like if you know me, it's like, oh, I'm just throwing in all my favorite stuff, you know. But also, I mean, I was taken by the fact, like when I was learning about all this stuff, and part of it that kind of jump started me to really actually start working on it was I was in Hollywood back around 2018 or something like that, and had a chance to actually walk around and look at all these sites, in a way that I never got around to when I actually lived in Southern California. And that really showed me how small of an area that we were talking about, and had me thinking like, I mean, Charles Bukowski would have been like right down the street. I mean, they probably they could have passed each other on the street. They could have been in the same bar. Ed and now in the book, I never have Ed and Charles meet each other. But it was blowing. And then like Keith Moon also had his period where he was living in the United States and had a house in Malibu and was, drinking himself to death. And just thinking about like all three of these guys, Ed Wood, Charles Bukowski, and Keith Moon, people who I love their work and all that kind of stuff, were all in LA at the same time, all, having substance abuse issues, all,
I got to be honest. I think Bukowski might have punched you. He was nicer in the book maybe they might have been in real life. Although he would, he would definitely focus interest on the girl though.
Yeah. I mean, I had to dial that back. I had someone read it who said that some of the stuff in the Bukowski scene might have been a little too on the nose, and I had to make him like a little bit more aloof. So I actually backed him off a little bit.
I,
But
I love Bukowski. I've read four biographies of him. He's quite a guy. But also, I love the scenes with John Holmes. That's hysterically funny,
oh
in
yeah,
my opinion. And getting stiffed. Well, I don't want to give stuff away in this album. I also slightly disturbing, but probably on target. I grew up in Southern California, by the way. On Trouble in 1977, I was 12 or 13 years old most of the year. But the Renee Bond scene, that probably
oh yeah.
rings true. I mean, her father was involved in her career, right?
Yeah. Now the thing is after I wrote that, I was reading some of the source that I used. A lot of it was actually Joe Blevins' blog.
Yeah, that's indispensable for Ed Wood fans.
Yeah. And I was wondering if maybe I had misconstrued. Like I had the dad in the book actually playing a part in the burlesque show.
Yeah.
And I don't. Upon second reading, I don't think it actually went that far, but it does make it
It's a little
weirder
weird.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there was weird stuff like about how he was proud of her and would show her movies at his city council meetings or whatever men's group he was in or whatever. So yeah, there's a grain of truth there, but I exaggerated it a little bit.
Have we ever? Well, I want to go one more thing. I also enjoyed the Hal Guthu. Is that his name? Gutho. Gutha scenes of the filming, and didn't that guy die violently eventually in his life? I think, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, so that's a mystery. He was found. I don't want to get this wrong, but I only have a kind of a vague memory of it. But I think he was found to have killed himself. I think shot himself. But the weird thing is that it was in his studio, and his studio was burnt to the ground around him. Yeah. And so people speculate that he was actually murdered, and then the place was burnt down. And I don't know what the various motives are. Some people say organized crime was involved, since organized crime had its hands in the adult industry. But no one really knows for sure what happened.
One theme of your book, which is true to life, is Ed Wood was involved in the adult film industry and adult literature, but never made anything out of it. And that's kind of I don't know. It would seem to me Wood might have been a little bit too passive a person, or probably having problems with the drink to assert himself. And I don't know. I don't know anything. The only Ed Wood film I've seen that is Take It Out and Trade. Oh wait, I have to confess, I watched, much to my regret, The Photographer. What's it called? Love Feast. But I did like Take It Out and Trade. I just don't know. It seems to me sort of tragic that Wood couldn't make a living out of writing dozens and dozens of books. Now here comes the question, though. How did you see Ed Wood at this time period as a character in The Valley Obscured by Smog, as an employee there and everything?
I guess I view him as a tragic character.
Yeah.
And someone who maybe had potential, never realized his full potential, and was living with the regret of never really having done the things he really wanted to do. Even though in real life, he did accomplish a lot for an independent filmmaker in the 50s. But never, got the recognition that he probably deserved, or notoriety during his lifetime that he probably thought he deserved. And so I guess partially viewed him as still trying. I always think about the fact that he was in adult movies and adult publishing and stuff as he wanted to do anything creative so bad that if the only way he could do it was to work on the fringes like that, then he was willing to do it.
Well, I think that theme is in your book somewhere. It's film, it's film, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's still making a movie. So, he's still telling people what to do on a movie set, So at least he's still doing that, even if it's this, adult movie that no one's going to see and would have normally been all forgotten, except for that, he had a resurgence after he died.
Well, Necromania itself, my co-blogger, Steve D. Stones, has something weird version. I haven't seen it, but I guess it's not incomplete. But I guess they found the whole film eventually, right?
Yeah, so they just like in the book, they shot two versions of it. One
Yeah.
is more explicit than the other, but they're almost identical. It's maybe a couple minutes difference worth of footage, and for a long time, only the less explicit one was available. And Something Weird Video put it out, and that's the way I first watched it, is on VHS. Luckily in Portland, Oregon, there's a video store called Movie Madness that has every movie you've ever heard of.
Wish I could go there.
Yeah, well, if you're ever here, you definitely need to go, and it's worth going just to look around, because they also have like movie props and stuff on display. But it's a really cool place. They have a whole shelf of Ed Wood stuff, and so when I first went there in my early 20s, I got to see all this stuff I had only ever read about. I didn't think I'd ever get to see, when I read Nightmare of Ecstasy, half the stuff they talk about in that book. And all of a sudden, not all of it, but some of it was available. So yeah, for a long time, only that one version was available. And then out of nowhere in the early 2000s, a more complete version was found and released. And now that's out on like Blu-ray and DVD and everything. So
You also talked about. It was funny to me to read this. I loved your novel. I really do. I'm going to read it probably twice a year. Okay. And
Wow.
so the thing is that it's so funny that Alan ends up shooting. Do I have this correctly? He starts shooting the stuff that Hal Guther would not shoot. And he has no idea how to shoot it. And later in your book, you explain that you just use Renee Bond to explain how a camera works or something.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I can't remember all the sources for everything, but I've seen multiple places that Hal wouldn't do the explicit stuff. He would do, movies with nudity and stuff, but he drew the line at like the really explicit stuff. But also there's people who study this stuff who say, no way, there's no way that's true. They've seen so many like explicit movies that were made at his studio that even his name is on. He clearly did that kind of stuff, and they don't know where the story came from, whether it was just plausible deniability back when the laws were more unclear and you could get arrested for this kind of stuff. It might have just been a story that he told to keep himself somewhat removed from it, keep his hands clean. But it gave me an opportunity to have an in for, and it's a funny story to say like, I won't shoot this stuff. You have to have someone else shoot it. It makes the story better, but it may not be.
100%
it's a story
true, right?
people have told, but it may not be true. And then the Renee Bond thing, that is actually a quote from someone else. It might even be John Andrews, who you mentioned earlier, about the camera jamming and fixing it and stuff. And I just thought it'd be funnier coming from Renee.
It is actually pretty funny. And you even had the fact that she fainted during the filming. It was so hot.
Yeah. Well, there was a heat. They shot it over like 2 days, and there was a heat wave in Los Angeles, and so the studio was probably even hotter than the outside. So it was probably like 110 degrees indoors or whatever, and with no air conditioning and all this. So yeah, the story goes that she fainted and they had to pour a bucket of water on her to wake her up.
I saw Renee Bond on YouTube on a Break the Bank episode a few years ago.
Yeah, that's right. She was on a game show. Yeah. She had retired by then, and she was on there with her husband at the time, not the guy
not Rick Lutz.
She was married to.
Not Rick
during
Lutz,
her career.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, another guy.
Now Ed Wood didn't live to see 55, right?
Right. Yeah, he's 54. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really sad because if he had had 20 more years, he would have been able to bask a little bit. I think it's still nice that he knew there was a cult for his movies. I mean, but he missed out on a lot, unfortunately. What do you think things might have been different if he'd stayed around for 20 more years?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. You always wonder if like the same stuff would have happened if he was around, like would him being alive have somehow altered this whole
I think he would have made some money out of it. I think he would have finally made some money if only doing personal appearances, if getting Fred Olen Ray to put him in a movie or something, finding a producer to make The Vampire's Tomb or something, it might have happened. But maybe it's better not that we want it to happen. Maybe there is a certain tragedy and romance in the fact he died before he was really discovered. I don't know.
It is interesting. The usual story is like, oh, a genius is not discovered until, like you have artists who their work isn't appreciated until after they're dead, or you have like the guy who wrote Confederacy of Dunces.
Yeah, O'Toole, Kennedy O'Toole or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy
All
Milligan,
that kind of stuff.
Andy Milligan too, I think, to some degree.
Yeah, and then Ed is kind of like the other. It's like his ineptitude wasn't really appreciated until after he was gone. But then through that, people took it more seriously. They watching movies so bad that they're good. Kind of gave a backdoor towards, especially since we haven't even talked about he was a cross-dresser and all that kind of stuff, and so that gives another perspective of him, not just as an independent filmmaker, but as an outside voice or a non-mainstream point of view. And so there are things to take seriously about his work, even if I'm not going to say, I would never make the case that like Plan 9 from Outer Space is a great movie, but it's really interesting to look at and dissect and all that kind of stuff.
I've almost got to the point where maybe I'm a member of a cult, but I kind of think it's a great movie now.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I would kind of agree in the sense that like whatever, it's all subjective, right? So if something resonates with you, then it resonates with you. And I guess what I mean is like I wouldn't necessarily say. I guess I don't really know what I mean, but
unique. Is it unique? You can't replicate it, right? No one can replicate. I've seen Plan 9. It's not a great movie. I'm sorry. That came out about 10 years ago. You just can't replicate these movies. Yeah, and maybe that's what I'm trying to think of right now.
I mean, it really has a clear point of view. I mean, an Ed Wood movie is an Ed Wood for the most part. I mean, maybe some of the ones later in his life, kind of, his personality wasn't in it.
Well, I'll never tub thump Love Feast. Okay, I'm sorry.
You'll never
tub thump. That's an old word. Promote Love Feast.
Oh, but, yeah. Well, even that movie, it's hard to watch, right?
Yeah.
Because Ed Wood stars in it.
Well, I can't bear what they did to him at the end, but go on.
Yeah, I know. And it's kind of exploitative. I mean, it's exploitative of his condition at the time. At the same time, though, it's amazing that there's that much footage of him talking.
Yeah, that's true. He's acting well.
I mean, he's talking directly to the camera, and you have to imagine he's maybe being a cartoonish version of himself, but so it's nice that that's there. I mean, I understand why people have a hard time watching it and stuff.
I did. Go on. I'm sorry.
But it is not, I mean, I guess really, I think it's like from 1969 or something. So really he still lived almost a decade longer than that. But
it's interesting that Joe Robertson promulgated the myth of his fighting, in World War II in the Rhino version. Okay, I'll tell you, there's one line that made me laugh in that movie. It says, "What are you trying to psychoanalyze me?" That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But
that's one. Well, okay. There's some clips from it in that documentary, "A Look Back in Angora." Ted Newsom. I think Ted Newsom made it.
Yeah.
That has a lot of clips of Ed from The Love Feast or The Photographer or whatever you want to call it. And at the time I had never seen it. And so when I was watching this documentary, I was thinking to myself, man, where did they get all these clips of Ed Wood?
Yeah, that was clever how they did that and Look Back in Angora.
Yeah. And then of course, later on I saw the movie and was like, all right. So if you ever want to see Ed, late 40s, early 50s Ed, but you don't want to see the terrible movie The Love Feast, you can watch Look Back in Angora instead and see little clips of it.
Yeah, somewhere I actually have it on an old DVD-R, although I'm sure you could probably still find it on YouTube now, right?
Yeah, I think it's on YouTube. Or if you have a VHS,
Oh, you know what? My
you can watch
co-blogger
this.
Steve Stones has that. Plus, he has the Ed Wood collection that Ted Newsom narrates. There's a lot of the.
Hmm.
Yeah, I wish I had
The
that.
big box of wood or whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
last time I looked,
I
it was
have
like
that too. Yeah,
$350 to buy though.
yeah. I think I ended up getting mine on actually I at Movie Madness. I rented all the discs at Movie Madness and watched all of them. But
That's cool.
then I bought it later on
See,
eBay or something like
you and
that.
I remember well, you can still go to Movie Madness, but in the 90s, going to a Blockbuster and spending 2 hours there, not even renting anything, just having a great time. Those are
Yeah.
long ago days. Let's talk about the book coming. Well, you did do your Frank Leahy screenplay. We talked about that on Plan 9
Oh yeah.
Films, and that was fascinating. It's fascinating to me that Frank Leahy was ever a topic assigned to Ed Wood. But
I know it's so weird.
yeah, that is very weird. But let's talk about, it was called Necro Novel, a weird tale of
Novel mania.
Necro Novel Mania, a weird tale of lit, and
Yeah.
the Pulp Fiction of Ed Wood. You're working on that right now?
I am. It's slower going than I thought it would be. I thought I'd be done by now. So I'm a little worried about it, but I'm working on it, and it's supposed to be. The concept is it's a novel by novel examination of every novel Ed Wood wrote, but I'm focusing on. He wrote stuff that's supposed to be, nonfiction, and then he wrote stuff that's clearly fiction. It's all fiction, but some of it is dressed up as, more scholarly, pseudo scholarly work, and some of it is really just, a novel with characters and stuff. So I focused on the novels that are not meant to be fake true. So that cut down the list a lot. And then, who knows how many he wrote, but I'm going by the ones that we know for a fact that he wrote. And so the idea is that each chapter will give you kind of a synopsis of the novel, my views on it, my analysis, maybe an overview of what a few other people have said here and there. Little things in the novel that are typical Ed Wood things, little interesting insights into where he might have gotten this or where he got that kind of stuff. And I kind of thought of it as one of the things I really loved about Nightmare of Ecstasy when I first read it was that there's that big bibliography at the end of the book. And
Yeah,
it's incomplete, but it has like at least a paragraph on book after book after book after book. I had no idea even existed, and at the time figured I would never be able to read any of them or find any of them anywhere. And luckily now I've been able to get some of that stuff. But I liked it in the sense that that's, if you find a real copy of one of those books, it's going to be very expensive because they're very rare.
I could have bought an Ed Wood book in New York City in 1997, and I turned it down.
Wow.
I turned it down because it was $55. That was a mistake.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember which one it was?
I think it might have been Hell Chicks. I'm not sure. I don't know if they told me it was Ed Wood. It may have had a different name, but we've since confirmed that Ed Wood wrote Hell Chicks.
Yes, yes. Did you literally see it in a bookstore?
I saw it in a bookstore in New York City, and I was an Ed Wood fan by then. My first, other than watching the movie, when it was on TV, Plan 9, other than buying Cult Movies 11, the first one I bought, I was an Ed Wood fan, and in the 90s by then, and just trying to find stuff. But I was single, working as a financial reporter, making a pittance, and I just didn't do it. Yeah. But I have 3 of his books. I have the Hollywood one where he wrote sort of his memoir. I have another one that's not Hell Chicks, but the same type of movie with a bunch of girl gang or something. I can't remember the title.
Devil Girls.
Devil Girls. And I have Let Me Die in Drag. I think I just bought those from 4 Windows 8, or 4 Rooms 8 Windows when they were still in existence. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted something where if you can't get your hands on these books, you might be able to get an idea of what they're like. You know what I mean? That's something that I would have enjoyed back before I could look at all this stuff. Yeah. But reading all these books is harder work than I thought it was going to be.
I bet.
So.
It's a lot of work. I just think about now. I had to mention I have a couple other books, but they were given to me surreptitiously as PDFs, and I don't want to say anything more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have some of that stuff too.
Yeah.
I've won some at auction on eBay, and I've bought some directly from people. But I've told myself that my Ed Wood book buying days are over. So
Well, it's hard. It's hard, you know. I love how your book sort of, without giving away the plot, revolves also around Alan Starkwell's excitement for Star Wars.
oh right.
And Ed Wood not knowing anything about it, but getting kind of excited when he learns Peter Cushing is in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so. That's another reason why it takes place in 1977 is
Yeah.
because I had this idea in my head. Well, and again, that's another thing that comes from having gone down to visit where his apartment was and everything. It struck me how close it is to the Chinese theater. I mean, several blocks away. I mean, it'd be like probably a 10-minute walk or something like that. But when you're down there among everything, it just seems like it's right there. And, you know, you see those pictures from the 70s of the huge Star Wars billboard and the lines around the block and all that kind of stuff. And you think to yourself, even if Ed Wood was poverty stricken, even if he was drunk all the time, he had to have been aware of this huge sci-fi movie that was opening down the street from his house, you know. And he watched TV all the time. He would have seen commercials for it, you know. So that really captured my imagination, wondering if he'd ever seen it before. And so I thought that would be an interesting setting for the movie, and then or the book. And then I kind of had to fudge Necromania because by then he wasn't making movies anymore and all that kind of stuff. But I thought that's a good third act.
I think it's perfect to put it in that era for sure. You capture Alan Starkwell in that character. You capture the frustration and bewilderment of dealing with an older man who, like, if you're hungry, he says, just have some wine. They don't have any water because the water bill hasn't been paid. Oh, here's some imperial whiskey or something. All right, and that's kind of, and also spending the night in someone who is clearly dysfunctional, but someone he grows to admire. I like the early scenes where the guys like Dean are just dismissive of Wood, because Wood shakes his head because they're doing all that stuff because he's an old style guy. It means a lot to him still. And even Bloom says he's my best rider, even though he's threatening to fire him all the time. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I tried to think, you know, earlier I mentioned wish fulfillment, but I tried to think like what would be my actual reaction. As much as I think like it would have been cool to meet him, what would I have actually thought, especially given no context? Like, it's not like I'm taking a time machine back in time, knowing everything I know now about Ed Wood and then going back in time and having a chance to meet him. It'd be like I just meet him and have no idea who he is, you know. What would I think? And I probably would not be very charitable about it and not want to be around him, you know. I hate to say, but find it unpleasant, you know. But it seems like he'd be an easy guy, and an easy guy to feel bad for. And in fact, I took some of that, like Valda Hansen, I think, has quotes where she talks about or maybe even Kathy Wood, when she met him, he seemed like a lost puppy dog, and she just wanted to take care of him and stuff. And so I don't want to patronize Ed Wood, but at the same time, I think that there would be a little bit of that, like, oh man, this guy needs my help, you know, to a certain extent.
But there's not much Alan Starkwell can do in his situation in life to help, other than just be his assistant for Necromania and pick him up and take him places. And
drive him around.
I think Valda Hansen would be somebody to explore sometime. We don't know much about her life. There's some stuff in Cult Movies magazine. I think she embellished her film career a little bit, but I've seen her in a few movies and stuff like that. I was trying to think of something I was going to ask you right now, but you talked about, you didn't write much in detail in Kathy Wood. Was there a particular reason for that?
No, not exactly, except for that she, aside from being there, there wasn't really any function for her as a character in the story. So, you know, I included stuff about the way they would fight with each other and what it was like around the apartment. But other than that, I didn't have much for her to really do, you know? And I actually toned down some of the stuff that I'd read about her and Ed, so that the book didn't get overwhelmed with that kind of stuff. But I tried to give a little bit of a nod, have her once or twice talk a little bit differently to like when she directs something to Alan, like take on a little bit of a different persona, and then switch back when she talks to Ed to give her a little bit of a third dimension. But yeah, she gets kind of short shrift in the book, but it's kind of the way I read about, I mean, other people's perceptions of what it was like to go over there and visit. But yeah, I mean, I feel kind of bad because, you know, I talked to Bob Blackburn, and Bob Blackburn obviously knew Kathy. Yeah. And so, you know, you want to do a better job of doing her justice, you know, but
you're right. She's not really a central character to the novel right now.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny. We got so much stuff on Ed Wood coming out. Even now, Gary Rhodes says that book will finally be out about Night of the Ghouls. Yeah. And Robert Kramer, it's taken over half a decade, but his updated biography, which I think I paid for in 2020, it has a whole section on Ed Wood now that's finally coming out this fall. So it almost seems like it's never going to stop, the Ed Wood stuff. Yeah. And I wonder if that's because he was so damn good looking in the 52 or something.
It could be. I mean, you know, there's a couple, if you just take a couple of shots of him, he has that one headshot, right? Yeah. Where he looks like Errol Flynn. Yeah. And then if you take a couple of shots where he's lit particularly well in Glen or Glenda, and then you have a bunch of good looking shots of Ed Wood. But I'm excited for Bob Kramer's book. And I used a lot of, he wrote an essay about when he went to
I've read that too. Yeah.
Interview Ed. And I got a lot of information. Like, I think even going to turn on the water and no water came out, like little things like that, I think I got from him, and I made sure to check with him, and he said, "Oh yeah, use anything you want to." So that was nice.
It's not Kramer, but the other guy, and I can't remember.
Oh, Bajarski.
Bajarski, is that the one that Ed Wood blew up at?
Well, he did blow up at Bob Kramer.
Oh, Kramer. Okay.
And he might have blown up at Bajarski. I'm not sure. But
Bajarski has passed away.
They got drunk together. Yeah. He got Richard Bajarski really drunk.
Yeah.
And there's pictures of them hanging out together where you can kind of like his like shirt tails hanging out, and they look like a little worse for wear, and like sitting out behind the apartment on what looks like 100-degree day, like
I have to go look
3 sheets to the wind. But yeah, Bob has a story. It's actually worse. So I based some of the stuff in the book.
Yeah, Bob was the one that had to more or less escape, right, from the place. I think it was.
Yeah, he hung out with him like 3 or 4 days, interviewing him off and on. Yeah. Until eventually Ed got so bitter and drunk and stuff, it blew up at him, saying like, "I should be the one writing the Bela Lugosi biography. You know, why are you writing? Why am I giving all this stuff to you?" And I think it says he broke a bottle and was threatening him with a broken bottle. Yeah.
You know, also, go on. I'm sorry. Go on.
And I wanted a scene where Ed got paranoid and started accusing Alan of stuff like that.
He does, sort of. Oh.
Yeah, so I included that, but I didn't go as far as having him threaten him with a broken bottle. Then I had an oblique reference he references, an interviewer was over here trying to get information out of me. But anyway.
Does in that book, does that talk about the guy who only knew him as a child or something? Arthur Lenig, maybe? I don't know. I know it may not be in your book, but Ed would criticize Arthur Lenig because he wrote a biography at the same time, the Count. And he met Lugosi when he was like 12 or 13 years old, when he was doing stock. But this stuff is so interesting to me. I know it's interesting to you too. And I think your book adds to compile them to get a biography of him. You know what Joe Blevins told me one time? He said that it's easy casting for Ed Wood too. Just do Johnny Depp again.
Oh yeah, I know.
He looks like a man well in his ages.
Yeah. That's true.
Is there anything you'd like to add right now that you think we might have missed?
Oh man, I don't think so. I'd just say if you have any interested in Ed Wood or B movies or Hollywood or anything like that, and you haven't read my book, then I think you'll enjoy it. So I recommend you go out and you can get it on Amazon. You can get it directly from Bear Manor.
I will have a link to either your Facebook, your Amazon page, or the book. I'd like to do the Amazon page if you have one, because that will give links to also the Frank Leahy screenplay as well. What's your favorite Ed Wood film? I always ask that to Ed Wood people.
Oh man, that's almost impossible.
What's a tie?
Oh my goodness. Sometimes I say it's Take It Out and Trade. But then I watch it and I'm like, it's not as good as I remember it being. I don't know. Sometimes I say Bride of the Monster because it's like maybe the closest he got to actually realizing his. I mean, it has the most Bela Lugosi in it.
Yeah.
It probably has the biggest budget. And like some moody lighting, a good score, you know, it's like the Ed Wood that could have been is all in Bride of the Monster. But then, I mean, Glen Planet, I don't know. I love all of it. I could do without The Only House in Town.
I haven't seen that myself.
Don't buy it. It's barely even a movie. Well, don't tell anyone. Don't tell any Ed Wood fans that I said that.
You just said it on our podcast.
Oh no. But yeah. But other than that, I like all this stuff really.
So do I. I'd go with Plan 9, but you know, the movie I like more every time I watch it is Night of the Ghouls, for some reason.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a weird, really weird movie. I've seen it less than the other ones, but I'm like you. Yeah, the more I watch it, the more it sticks with me. Yeah, I mean, again, it's so many of his movies are like what ifs. It's like, what if Bela Lugosi was alive and he could have played Dr. Acula instead of Kenny Duncan. Wait, is that his name? Kenny Duncan?
Kenny Duncan, yeah.
But then at the same time, it's super weird that Kenny Duncan plays it's like miscast as this like, you know, hypnotist or seance guy, you know.
Was it somewhere, okay, Fredel and Ray interviewed Ed Wood in Occult Movies 11, and apparently Fredel and Ray believed that Lon Chaney was mistitled as in the Kenny Duncan role for Night of the Ghouls in some annual film book. And there kind of be a slight resemblance, not a very big resemblance, but you could have thought that. Kenny Duncan's someone else's. I'd like to know more about his life, you know, particularly the end and everything.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys who's been in like 500 movies or something like that. So I mean, the stuff in Nightmare of Ecstasy doesn't necessarily make him sound like the most pleasant guy to be around, but clearly him and Ed were buddies.
Barbara Hanson didn't like him much, did she?
No, he was a little handsy with Felda,
well, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you. It's just, I'll probably go back to the book soon because I just enjoyed talking about it, remembering all the scenes in it. I am a person who can't get enough of Ed Wood, and so thank you for writing the book. Thank you for your previous book, and we look forward to, I hope you get through it, the book on Ed Wood Pulp Fiction. Now I got to say, go on.
It's coming. It's just not coming as quickly as I wanted it to.
And I'll look for your posts on Edward D. Wood page, Ed Wood Jr. page. No, forget it. I'm bobbling right now. The Ed Wood page on Facebook. There's a whole bunch of them, but Bob's is the best. And I have to say, we're Plan 9 Crunch. Okay, we're at YouTube. Give us a subscribe. We're growing slowly, and we are plan9crunch.com is a blog since 2008. In which we reviewed a lot of. Did I review the Leahy book, or did I just interview you? I did. Okay.
You did, yeah.
All right. And Plan 9 Crunch is also on TikTok. We don't do it as much as we should, and we have Plan 9 Crunch podcast and blog on Facebook. Oh, and anyway, so thank you very much, and that's a wrap.